I'd like to speak on the report of the committee. And I think that as Parliament, sometimes we will have to ask the difficult questions when some of these proposals are coming from government. Sincerely, in practical terms, if the minister and the deputy should have been here, but it looks like only the deputy is here, what is the sole reason why we are bringing this bill in practical terms? The minister knows that when you are awarding a contract and it's public funds, you will have to do value for money audit when you are giving to an individual on what we call sole sourcing. When you identify an individual and you decide to give that contract to an individual because of his expertise or because of technical reasons, the people of Ghana demand through a law that you must do audit for money, so that value for money, so that audit, so that the public is aware that the contract is not inflated and that you didn't just call the person to give him, and that is the exact price, because it was not subject for competition. Mr. Speaker, when you advertise a project and people come and compete, the entity tender is expected to look at it and award to the lowest bidder. There is no value for money in it. There is no value for money. Now that's why I'm asking that if you set up this office, what is it expected to do? Because you go to PPA for the Public Procurement Authority to look at it, they will do the assessments and then give you the permission to go ahead. When you advertise, people compete. The competition is supposed to drive prices down. The entity tender will look at it, and when it's past a certain threshold, you send it to the central entity, central tender board, where the Minister for Finance and his people are part of it, to also look at it and give concurrent approval. As we say today, what exactly is this office supposed to do? Because I'm told by the committee that, and looking at the report, that, well, there is a gap, if you go to paragraph, Mr. Speaker, paragraph 4.2. In fact, the background, if you read the entire background, it tells you why they think there's a need for it. And Mr. Speaker, we're just setting up another bureaucratic organization. Why don't we strengthen what we already have? We have all the laws. Why don't you strengthen it? The PPA law is there. The concurrent approval is there. The entity approval is there. If you don't want to do value for money, don't give sole sourcing. What we call single source. Don't give sole sourcing. Scrap it. Say that every contract must go through competitive bidding. And in competitive bidding, we all know how it's done. You don't see what I've bidded. You don't know what your opponent has come to bid. The contractor will look at it and believe that I can use 1 million cedis to do the job. Another person thinks that I can use 600,000 to do the job. The entity tender will look at it, assess, and give it to the best person. Most always, the law insists that they should give it to the lowest bidder. That's why I'm asking, what exactly are we setting this office for, this bureaucratic office again for? Because of sole sourcing? Or what is it for? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, internal audit unit has a function. Is this office going to take part of the function of the internal audit unit? What has Middlebury and Dabia got to do with this? Mr. Speaker, the internal audit unit functions are being taken by this amorphous body that they are setting up. You will audit. There's a reason why the internal auditor is within the organization. When he does his work properly, then the external auditor will come and do the final audit. We have all the laws. We have all the safeguards. We are simply not practicing them. We are simply not strengthening them. We are going to set up another bureaucratic organization, and I can tell you that in about 2-3 years' time, this will be where there will be corruption. This will be the biggest body for corruption. Because that is where contractors will go and sort people out. That's what you want to do. That is why these are the people, everybody in Ghana will want to go and work under this office. Because they want to sort them out. That's what you want to do. Now, that's what you want to do. Because that will determine how much your contract will be. There's a good reason why most of the audits were done by outside entities. You know that. That is a good reason why most of the audits were not done by Ghanaians. They were done by outside entities. So that you and me cannot influence them. You want to go and put a group of people and every day Mr. Speaker, I am saying that there's a good reason why most audits around the world are done by outside entities and by recognized institutions. KPMG and several others, they do
Honorable
this.
Majority Chief Whip, you can take note. When you have the floor, you counter.
Mr. Speaker, oh please, Minority Leader, please. Yes, exactly the reason why I'm on my feet is a former leader of the House. You can make your point without suggesting that local audit firms are not giving jobs because they are compromisable. It cannot be, and they are not competent. That is what you have said. That is why jobs are given to foreign audit firms. He said, it's here external. What does external mean? What does external mean? So, Mr. Speaker, we must not allow that to stay in the record. He must withdraw.
Honorable
he can make his
Nitiwul,
point.
you have the floor. You may conclude.
Pete, it is for good reasons why value for money audit is given to external group of people. But you should have asked me to define the external. It's for good reasons. Why is that like that? Mr. Speaker, if we are not careful and we set up a body that everybody knows who the members are, everybody knows who they are, we risk a very big problem in our hands tomorrow. We want to fight corruption, but I can tell you corruption will fight us if we are not careful. I say that we should strengthen what we have because we have all the safeguards. If you want to award a contract and make sure that that contract goes through the best competitive price, all the safeguards in our laws are there already. My fear is that if we set up this body and we are not careful, corruption will begin to fight us from this body. I don't know who the members will be. I don't know the capacity of the members. I don't know how we intend to look at it, but I can tell you that corruption may end up fighting us. We have seen some of it from PPA before, and we'll continue to see some of these things. So all I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that I support when the minority take the position that the form and manner in which this bill has come, we cannot support it. We can't, except we agree on certain amendments that will take care of the very concerns that I am making today. Otherwise, I would advise the Minister for Finance to withdraw this bill and take it out completely and strengthen what we have already. Because it's only on sole sourcing, single source, that we do value for money audit. And you are going to make a bill just because of that, when you can strengthen the audit, you can strengthen the value for money agencies to do proper work for you. But that is what I'm telling you in practical terms. Mr. Speaker, I started by saying that in practical terms, the place where they do value for money audit in most cases is when you decide to give a contract on sole sources.
Honorable Nitiwul.
Yes.
When you are on the floor speaking and you try to respond to what they are not placed on record, if you go back to listen or to read the Hansard, you feel sorry for yourself. So whilst you are on your feet speaking, address the chair. Other than that, If you go back, you look at your submissions, you say that, what was the basis of saying this? Because whatever the person said from the other side is not captured by the Hansard, but your response is only captured by the Hansard.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, my leader kept on prompting me on the same line, that I should focus and just look at you. But the point I'm making, Mr. Speaker, is that the way this bill has been brought, it may be well-intentioned, but we should withdraw it. We should withdraw it and do the right thing. Go and make sure that we strengthen the current value for money audit and make sure that it works. Simply don't give contracts on sole sourcing, and there will not be a need for this. And I know that the president says that they don't want to do sole sourcing any longer, so don't give. I know they are doing it. In fact, majority of the contracts are given looks to be on sole sourcing anyway. But that's what they said publicly. But I'm saying that withdraw sole sourcing from our contracts. Let every contract be competitive bidding. And if every contract is competitive bidding, the audit itself will be taken care of by the process of the bidding. Competition itself will give you the best price. Because the law is very simple. You don't know what I have, I don't know what you have. And when the entity opened the tender on that day, they give it to the lowest bidder, as long as all of them are qualified. So you will go and see that there's a contract for 10 million Ghana cedi, and someone is bidding for 6 million, some are bidding 9 million, some are bidding 3 million. So two things you need to do, Mr. Minister, instead of this: withdraw all sole source contracts, and then restricted tender contracts. You know what I mean by restricted tender contracts, where 3 or 4 companies are pre-selected, and then those companies alone will bid. So withdraw those two things, and you will not need this act. Withdraw restricted tender and withdraw sole sourcing. If you withdraw the two, you will not need this bill. You will not need the bill. So I say, Mr. Speaker, that we don't need this bill. We just need to make sure that we don't have sole sourcing in our, don't give contracts on sole sourcing, and don't give contracts on restricted tender.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Nitiwu was looking for the reason, the purpose of this all-important bill. Let me read it to him. The object of the bill is to establish the value for money office to regulate, monitor, coordinate, promote, and develop value for money assessments to enhance efficiency, transparency, and accountability in the management of public expenditure and procurement. That is the essence of this all-important bill. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House from 6 parliaments, 7 parliaments, 8 parliaments, and 9th parliament. I'm a senior man in the House. Mr. Speaker, project loans have been rejected in this House because of lack for money audit documents. We have rejected project loans because they are not accompanied by value for money audit assessment. Now we have a bill. We have a bill in place. When put into law, will help us to avoid all these things. And want us to not to allow this to go through. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we are doing ourselves very well as a country. Let's go ahead, make sure that this report is adopted. The processes for the enactment of this law is done, so that we'll be free for all these things. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
You recall, Mr. Speaker, under President Kufuor, the Procurement Act, the Procurement Bill was passed into an act which became the first bedrock procurement framework for ensuring value for money when it comes to public procurement. Mr. Speaker, you also recall under President Kufuor, an Office of Accountability was even established at the presidency And there have been series of efforts over and over again to attempt to sanitize the procurement regime, the public procurement regime of our country. Mr. Speaker, under the law, there are only 2 occasions when value for money is required: sole sourcing and restrictive tender. Mr. Speaker, what is sole sourcing? Sole sourcing is, we all know, where one company is invited to provide procurement. And restrictive tender is when 2 or 3 companies are called upon to tender in a restrictive manner. Mr. Speaker, the rationale behind sole sourcing and restrictive tender from the get-go, from the outset, had been that if there was an emergency, for example, and the government or the public sector could not go through the elaborate process of advertising and time constraints and so on and so forth, you then go for sole sourcing. And again, if you had even a certain limited time or a bit more time, then you could do restricted tender. But what has happened over the years? This process has been abused. It's been abused because where you have situations where sole sourcing is adhered to, when it doesn't fall within the very restricted, limited circumstances within which sole sourcing should be restricted to, where there's no emergency, where you have enough time, and yes, public officers go along the line of sole sourcing for the reasons we all know, which I shouldn't say here. Restricted tender, Mr. Speaker. There have been situations, and let's call a spade a spade. Let's be blunt on this matter. There are situations where in the public sector of our country, we say restrictive tender, and the restrictive tender is contrived where whoever wins, whichever of the 2 or 3 companies win the bid, the beneficiary becomes the same person with a veil. Mr. Speaker, this is a fact. Let's agree that these are the problems with our public procurement in our country. And so the point that the Honorable Dominic Nitewol has made, Mr. Speaker, don't let us interrogate that point from a partisan lens. Let's have a bipartisan interrogation of the point he has made, which is that if this value for money or bill, if this is actually intended to ensure that the state or the republic and its citizens get true value when we go through sole or restrictive tender, we then will have this new arrangement for value for money. Mr. Speaker, should we have sole sourcing and restrictive tender in the first place? If we truly want to have value for money, should we not, as a country, and I see that my good friend, the Minister for Finance, the Deputy Minister for Finance, is listening with rapt attention. Mr. Speaker, should we not have a situation where for every tender or every procurement, it is open, public, transparent, competitive tender?